Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the Economic Change webinar during Trustees Week. I hope you can hear me okay. Any problems you can, or any queries indeed, throughout the whole session, please do put them within the question box, and I will look to ask them during the answer them during the course of the session. So what we're focusing on today is about solutions for going digital and looking at how a cloud CRM can help trustees and charities to deliver results better. So we're going to be working through the session, and I'm going to be demonstrating Salesforce CRM throughout the session so you can understand and see it in practice. Okay. So just a summary about why we're talking about this today and background to economic change. We focused out helping 10 years ago non-profits to measure their impact, and we came across Salesforce as a solution to help with impact management, which is the new term on the block at the moment. It's all about impact management as opposed to impact measurement. And what we mean by that is really about being able to measure and evaluate the performance of your non-profit real time. So on a daily basis, you can see how well your organisation is doing across different departments, because impact really does span everything from impact measurement at the end result, but it's what contributes to achieving that. So that can stem across fundraising, outreach and engagement, sales, delivery of services, to your resourcing, your volunteers, to your staff, and how they're all being supported to fulfil their role. So really, social impact measurement has a broad sort of application to an organisation, and using Salesforce, you can use it daily to track all of this data and to enable you to see all of the important information that's available to you. So it really just feeds into business strategy, it feeds into impact, it feeds into being able to assess how well you're doing, and that really provides a level of certainty for trustees, because it allows them to get a feel and a handle of what is actually happening real time within their organisation. So our approach to what we do is very much structured around a step-by-step process for measuring impact, change management and developing systems. And these are our e-guides that are available on our website. But we also take through clients sort of a structured way of thinking and working through things, because we find it really helps them to digest the information and think through what they need to do next. So if you want to sort of access any of this support, you can download our e-guides if you need to after the session. So what are we talking about today? Well, I came up with the content for this workshop or webinar really based on a response to the recent Charity Commission report, which is about the 12 questions that trustees should consider about making digital work for their charity. And our specific focus and expertise is around CRM systems. And what does that mean? They are client relationship management systems. They're effectively a database that manages client relations, where all the data related to your clients or different stakeholders, which might be volunteers, even trustees, beneficiaries, etc., is stored. But it's not just about storing data, it's also about managing and tracking interactions, intervention, and, as we talk about, impact with those clients. So I pulled out some key question areas from this report, one being around governance and strategy, the other service delivery, fundraising, cybersecurity and resourcing, because I believe CRMs really contribute to ticking the boxes of these 5 areas in particular. So that's what we're going to be sort of working through today, is giving you visibility on how a CRM can help you tackle these 5 different areas and perhaps start addressing the questions at your next trustee meeting. So when we talk about governance and strategy, what we're talking about is being able to collect and analyse data, so it's all in one system, in one place. So it provides transparency to a board, a management board or trustee board, about what is happening within the organisation at any one point in time. And that's, as I mentioned, across any sort of business department really. It's about knowing exactly what's going on. And it saves time. If you have this data within our CRM, it saves time for a managing director or a CEO, because they don't have to go digging around and asking for it. It's available at their fingertips to see on a daily basis. So we'll delve into that a bit more. The next area is around service delivery, and this is about really understanding about how are you interacting with your beneficiaries, which communication methods are you using, are they online or offline, and how do your beneficiaries access information, make complaints or make payments. So we'll be talking through some of the options there. In terms of fundraising, if you attract donors or indeed sell products and services to generate funds, we'll look at improving online payment options. And what that really means, if you implement a full solution using a CRM, is about keeping that data secure and improving relationships with those donors and funders for the long term. So we'll be talking through some of those options. The next is around cybersecurity, which again is an increasing topic on the agenda at the moment, because everything, what does cloud mean? Where is it? Where is the data kept? And there's also more requirements around data protection as well. So we'll be talking through some of those areas that you need to think about and practically think, well, how do we currently do this in our organisation, and do we need to step up a gear in order to meet future requirements? And finally, we talk about resourcing, and overall the ideal would be that you are reducing admin costs and providing by having a cost-effective sort of CRM solution in place that can be customizable and adaptable to scaling with your organization as it grows or decreases. So these are some of the areas that we'll be working through. So our approach to supporting trustees on looking at performance of an organisation is adopting really the balanced scorecard methodology, and this really does pick out those 5 areas that we've just talked about. We put together a KPI briefing paper, and by KPI I mean Key Performance Indicator briefing paper, which you can see at the bottom of the page here that you can download for free. And what this does is sort of really split out what are the 4 different areas that perhaps a trustee board should be reviewing an organisation on. So the 4 areas that were pulled out was organisational capacity, which is around learning and skills, stakeholder and customer satisfaction, internal business operations, and financial performance. And these are the 4 areas that make up a balanced scorecard. And the methodology is world-renowned and used by many corporate organisations as well as indeed charities. So it's a method that's there, and it's really about taking the emphasis off financial metrics alone and looking at actually what are the 4 pillars that underpin the success of an organisation. And these are the 4 areas that were identified. So we're going to go through each of these. If you do download the free briefing paper, what that does provide you is more detailed information around the types of activities that you might track under these 4 areas, and also KPI examples, so indicators that you can track around each of these areas in much more detail, which I'm not going to go into that level on this call. So first, talking about organisational capacity. A CRM, a client relationship management system, talks about clients in its title, but it's also about managing internal relationships. So within this area, I've identified some key points that were identified within the Kaplan methodology. It emphasises that you should have a high-performing team that is fit for purpose and a recruitment plan that is going to help you recruit the right staff and volunteers to help you achieve your strategic goals. So the trustee board needs to be confident that that is true and can be achieved, and is able to see who is currently employed by the organisation, on what type of contract, what are their skill sets, and is that going to align you to where you need to be. It's also about putting in really good performance frameworks for employees to make sure they are working towards strategic goals and are monitored against targets. So it's about looking at, well, how do we track performance frameworks? What quantitative measurements do we have, and what qualitative information do we ask? For trustees who come in once a quarter, the quantitative analysis is probably going to be the easiest thing for them to analyse, rather than delving into qualitative narrative around how employees are performing. So it is about coming up with a matrix, a numerical matrix really, that allows performance to be tracked and to see how staff are performing against what their targets are. Obviously, to help people achieve their performance, you need to put in order really a good learning strategy and make sure they are supported to achieve those targets. So here we start talking about, well, what are their learning goals? What do they need? What is a CPD and continual professional development compliance that is needed in the sector that you're in? And what qualifications have they achieved? What budget is being put against CPD, and what has been spent? And this really is all around HR and supporting training, coaching and developing staff. So I summarised the key areas in which we can adopt a CRM to basically create a HR system, and I'll demonstrate this in practice in a moment. But within a CRM system, you can create a HR module and also an intranet module. And within the areas where you can contain this information and develop it, what you can collect is the employee information, which might be about quality information like demographics, as well as sort of other personal information. It might be the contracts that you have, so you might want to track how many contracts, what type of contract are they on, how many hours, salary brackets, whether it's full-time, part-time, associate contracts. You might want to track time off and toil, so that could include holiday but also sick pay, and any toil related policies that you have. We've talked a lot about performance reviews, so indeed tracking performance reviews from basically their probation performance to monthly performance to annual performance reviews. And also some of our clients have introduced 360-degree performance reviews, so you've got perspective from different stakeholders, and all of that data is contained within the CRM system. You can track training and CPD records, which could include approval, requests and approval for training. You could have an area that tracks what benefits people have and what they've claimed. You could have an area that tracks health and well-being initiatives, and also how people are feeling around stress management and all those different areas. And that can tie in with an employee satisfaction survey that you might do, which also perhaps has numerical values that can be scored and seen. And as I mentioned at the beginning, you might have an intranet area which allows for staff to interact with each other within a community, where they might discuss social charity initiatives as well as almost professional interests as well. So all of these things can really help empower people, provide one that the theory around hygiene factors is important. So it's capturing all of the requirements around HR and the compliance requirements, so they're clear on, you know, what their contract is, what their holiday entitlement is, and it's all tracked coherently in one place. But also the health and well-being, the benefits, the employee satisfaction survey and the intranet also help with the motivation and the support and pastoral support, as well as the training and CPD that sort of, you know, provides the motivating factors for these clients. So I'm going to whip over to our Salesforce instance, and this is just a summary dashboard that you can see, which I'll show you in reality in a moment. But as you can see here, we've got a dashboard set up which is available in Salesforce that is pulling information from the CRM around sickness statistics. So you can see here we've got a RAG category about red, amber, green, about how many days they've had off and whether that's an area of concern. We've got information about time off in lieu. We've got when people are due an annual appraisal, and again all of these reports and graphs can be customized to tell you the KPIs that you want to track. You've got gaze charts that show you approved value of CPD, It shows you how many staff have got which qualifications. It shows you the renewal month for different qualifications, number of hours CPD by month, for example, salaries of staff, like the numbers of staff you've got and what salary brackets they are, what type of staff they are, or what region they are in. And these are really just a sample of KPIs that you might track, but the dashboard is really there to be flexible. So I'll just jump across to the system in a minute and you can see how this works in practice. So we set up the HR module for various clients. There are various sort of objects here that come off the shelf. So if I click on the employee object to start with, and I click on Emma Wilkes, what you'll see here within this record is there's a lot of fields here that can be populated around their information. Again, you can customize all of these fields. Every client normally wants this sort of particular area to be customized with what they collect and how they phrase things. So you can see the sort of information it's collecting, employment history, emergency information, bank details, and then below that you have something called related lists, which shows the performance reviews that might be related, the time off records, the expenses, CPD records, employment contracts. Again, you can set up related lists that account to what you need. So within employment contracts, you can set up multiple contracts. So certainly with some of our clients, people have more than one contract at one time. So you can set up different types of contracts and collect the type of information in it that you want to collect. You can attach notes and files, so you can attach a file which is a signed copy of the contract potentially. You can have performance reviews. So again, this is an example performance reviews, and clients asked us to set up a whole range of different performance review templates depending on what performance review it is, whether it's a probation one or an annual one. And again, you can have a whole range of questions in here. So this is a pick list field, you've got a notes field, but I do encourage that there are numerical gradings, like here, review grade. People can be graded and that means something in particular, so obviously you define what your grades are, and these can be done. And with the HR systems, there's of course security that can be set up, so people only see their records and their managers can see their records, so this information is secure within the database. In terms of time off, there's the time off records, and the way that this tends to operate is that you would set up an annual time off record, and within that summary record it would automatically calculate the number of days that have been taken, or number of sick days, number of toil days, etc. Again, this is slightly variable depending on what the client requires, and beneath that you can do time off requests. So staff can come in here and request new time off. They can click, I would like between this date and this date, and they can say how many working days that is. They can say what type of holiday it is, whether it's paid time off, and then set the status and click save. And then this can be submitted for approval, which can be manually set to a specific member of staff, or it can be automated depending on who the manager is. And this can go through an approval process, which is then an alert is sent to the manager to do the approval. So, and this is similar to expenses. So you've got an expense summary, and expense items can be put beneath here, so that expenses can be allocated to specific programs or services, so they integrate with your financial system and can be used in that way. And CPD records can be used in a way that Emma, for example, might request that she goes up for this qualification, and it might go through an approval process, or it might be just somewhere where the manager logs what qualifications Emma has, for example. So all of the CPD records can be seen and stored appropriately, and a copy of the certificate can be put in here, and renewal dates are quite popular, so they can see everything in one place. And I mentioned some of the other things, so health and wellbeing and benefits are other objects and tabs that you can have. And also I will just nip to a community area so you can see a community, so bear with me a moment. Within communities, Salesforce comes with a function called Chatter. And with Chatter, you can set up internal groups. It can be visible and used by external audiences, but for the point of staff members, you can set up a number of groups. So here I've got London-based volunteers, which probably wouldn't be too applicable to staff, but the principle is the same. So you could set up social groups as well as professional groups for your employees to engage, and it provides a Facebook type interaction where people can post notifications, they can attach files, they can promote events, like maybe it's a football club on a Thursday night that they run internally, or they can create cases or leads, or do a poll with staff, ask questions, or do an announcement. And it really creates a vibrant sort of internal interaction area, and this is very much used as sort of a bit of an intranet functionality. And you can set emails to be sent to you automatically, or they can be sent on a daily digest or weekly digest or monthly, depending on what you want. So it provides an area for support, and there's other intranet features you can have. You can have a visual homepage for the intranet, and you can have news features and announcements clearly sort of listed and identified, so that all of that sort of functionality is available from a HR perspective. So that really sums up sort of some of the features and attributes that you can achieve. And as I mentioned with the dashboards, if I just go back to the Employee Manager app, with the dashboards, this is the dashboard that I showed you a minute ago. This can get refreshed on a daily basis, so it keeps all of this up to date. And literally, this can be set up so the trustees have a view of what they need to see. So ideally, you'd be identifying what KPIs the trustees need to see, and a graph would be set up, which they can have emailed to them automatically, or it can be just copy and pasted and put within a document report ready for trustees. And all of these graphs, if you click on it, it goes through to the report that sits behind it. So all of the information that is contained within records can be easily exported as an Excel file or CSV file, ready for people to view and see. Okay, moving on to the next topic. Stakeholder customer satisfaction. So on a daily basis, we need to understand that the charity is helping the customers in the way they expected. This isn't just about impact, it is also about customer satisfaction and about understanding whether customers are happy with the service they're being received, that the outcomes and outputs are being achieved, that the monitoring and evaluation process is actually happening, because one of the biggest shortfalls is that data perhaps isn't being collected in the way it should be collected and isn't being analysed real time. And as an organisation passionate about impact measurement and impact management, indeed, we really want to see that actually real-time analysis is happening, that you can assess satisfaction and achievement of outputs and outcomes on a monthly basis, or indeed a weekly basis, that you can see and act on that. Because if things aren't being achieved in the right way or customers aren't satisfied, you can address that straight away and change the way that a service is happening, look at whether, where the issues lie, whether it's with the resourcing, whether it's with the information being provided, whether the outreach isn't right, and you're able to address issues quickly and respond in an agile way. So what you want to do is put together a participant monitoring and evaluation framework that really engages all the staff in a continual improvement process. And a CRM is ultimately about managing client relationships real time and responding to them. I think we're a society these days that very much judges brands on how they interact with us as a customer. How well are we doing? We're getting text message surveys back to us all the time about, well, how did we do? Did we answer your question today? And I really think charities need to up their game in really measuring how well we're doing. So to expand on this, I think there's some key areas that we should be tracking. One is around cost and scale of delivery, beneficiaries being supported, like the number and demographics of those, the value and scale of the outcomes being achieved, The beneficiary feedback and how that is being managed. So we're looking at both positive and negative feedback and addressing why that happened and what we could do differently. Looking at the resource allocated to it, and then also referrals, and that is about referrals into the organisation as well as referrals out of the organisation. That's really about partnership management and how well you do from that perspective. In terms of impact dashboards, this is again another example one that I set up around showing outcomes achieved by month, values of outcomes achieved by month, so this is more financial proxies, and I'll show you how all this works in a minute. In-kind value support, so this might be around volunteers and their time and how much they're contributing to delivery of services. It could be around a change, journey distance travelled, and change in IT scores. So how do people rate their change in IT knowledge over time? So here we've got some examples. Number of hours of support provided to candidates. Economic status at start. So what is the origin of these people, and the outcomes achieved. So I'll just switch over to the system to just show you how that works in practice. So I'm going to our Frontline Services app, and this is again something that is customized for clients, so it's not one size fits all. You can certainly have a similar recipe to other organisations, because quite often people work in a similar way, but I'll just show you how this works. So I'm going to pick out an example, Lisa Cox, and Lisa is a beneficiary on our service. Now on our contact record we have demographic information and contact information around Lisa. We also have where she was referred to as initially, but she might well be referred to us from different places over several years if she's a repeat beneficiary. And we also have some volunteer information on her record here, which shows that she's also keen to volunteer to gain work experience. Beneath this we have information around notes and meeting notes and tasks that have happened. You can also log calls and track emails that have been sent. I can see that Lisa has been engaged on 2 programs with us, a health and wellbeing program as a volunteer and a beneficiary of the employment support program, and I can see the start date and end date, and these are actual specific records in their own right, so I can click on this record and it will take me through to further information. Beneath that I can also see that she has a support plan. So what I'll do is open up the support plan in an object, and it shows me information about who has supported Lisa. It shows me the distance travelled so that I can see the baseline confidence score. When she started, she scored her confidence as a 1. When she finished the programme, she scored herself as a 4. So the change in confidence was 3, which is a formula field that we use in here. And indeed many clients have quite often sort of different distance travelled ratings and tools, so they can see the change in what's happening. We also have things around SMART objectives, desired work, and also some progression information. And what we're calculating on this progression record is the number of hours support achieved, and this is a summary field that's accumulating all the summary of the support records here. So below I can see a summary of the support records that shows me that she's had 2 one-to-one sessions with Andy at 3 hours and also 20 hours of training support, and this is accumulating in this 26 hours here. And against each of these support records we've put a financial proxy, depending on whether it's a volunteer or member of staff, to calculate the cost of that support. So we've got the cost of support here. The value of support is rated at £1,120, which has been automatically calculated. Now with Lisa, she was successful in achieving employment. And so the economic status at end is employed. We have an outcome record here, so we show that she achieved various outcomes whilst on this programme. She achieved a qualification, completed a training course, and achieved a full-time job. And each of these have an outcome value against them, which can be calculated using social return on investment methodologies. or it might be financial values that are provided by your funder directly. And so this information is being calculated here. So we can see that the cost of the support was this amount, but the value of the outcomes achieved, which might be a value to the government or it might be value to the beneficiary themselves, is 5,500. Now the duration on the programme from start to finish is also being calculated automatically from the start and end date fields, and this shows that Lisa spent 46 days on the programme. And we also have assessment records here, and also we can show referral records, so we can track who Lisa was referred to. And again, you've got notes and attachments and files. And so all of this information is all being pulled from different objects. So I'll click on the outcome object, and this can be found here. So again, various bits of information can be stored here depending on what you want, and evidence can be attached, because quite often with outcomes you might need to attach evidence. So you might need a box to say evidence has been approved and verified, and can be found here. And so what that allows us to do is, going back to that impact dashboard that we had a moment ago, is you can have an impact dashboard that basically shows you on an aggregated basis all of the outcomes you're achieving. And you might also have satisfaction information here. So if I go back to our feedback dashboard, I have a feedback dashboard that is actually related to volunteers, but this shows me, for example, number of volunteer hours by month, the rating of experience by volunteers, which you could indeed do by any different type of stakeholder, and how many feedback forms were completed and what the key skills were they developed. So again, you can set up different types of dashboards showing different information, and this information is available real time to you. Now, moving on and building out the picture a bit more about how we interact with stakeholders, we move on to internal business operations. And this is really around improving interaction and communication with clients. How do you speed that up? How do you make it better? How do you make it more efficient? So I'm just going to look at some examples here. So I pulled out, it is the time for digital, it seems, but the Lloyd's UK Digital Index 2016 has done some specific research about charities and their use of digital technology. And there's a couple of statistics here, so if you need proof of why you should be thinking about this. 52% of charities cite cost savings due to being online, and 87% say that saving time is an advantage of being online. So charities are really seeing benefits of basically deploying digital solutions. So here we're going to look a little bit more wider than a CRM, and actually how you can engage a CRM tool with communication, other communication tools that embrace digital technology. So we're going to look at digital tools first, and here I've summarized some key ones that integrate with Salesforce. So emails is the one that's most commonly used and is available. So with emails, obviously they go in and out of people's inboxes all the time. And what you want to be able to do ideally is to make sure that any important emails are saved against your records within your CRM system. So if I was looking at Lisa's contact record, I could see emails that have been saved against her contact record within the CRM. So they're stored there centrally. They're not hidden in somebody's inbox. So that level of history is really important. And again, it's something that we expect from other companies. So if we ring up our bank or our mobile phone company, we expect them to be able to see emails or notes around telephone conversations that we've had previously. So it's really about customer satisfaction in that way. So having an integration between your email and your CRM is important, and that not necessarily every single email needs to be stored, because that would use up a lot of storage and might be too cumbersome, but indeed those important emails where agreements have been made, or feedback or complaints management is stored, or any sort of information that you think needs to be retained. So there would need to be a policy about what is saved and restored. Online forms are the other area that can integrate with the CRM. So a lot of our clients have been using SurveyMonkey, and the information is stored there. But if you store things within like an online tool and leave it there, it's not synced back with your client information. So what we implement for clients is online forms that if they fill in the form, the data automatically fills fields within their CRM information. So that might be an application form, it might be a membership form, it might be a feedback form, but the information from that form is automatically coming straight back into your CRM, attaching itself to the relevant contact and populating data fields into the system. People say sometimes that online forms aren't always accessible, so okay, that's fair enough. There are tools out there which can be used offline. So if you're out and about, you can bring up the offline form, it can be filled in, and when you're back online, that data will then sync back into your CRM. So I know it's not possible to move away from paper for everybody. Paper is always going to probably have a space there for certain beneficiaries and for certain ways of working. But if you can move certain things into online forms, whether it's for volunteers, partners, beneficiaries, members, it's useful to be able to do that because it will save you time and money, because then you don't have to go and input that data somewhere else if it's on Word, or you don't have to import it into a CRM. It's automatically within your CRM database if you have this integration. We've looked at Chatter, and again, online community access can be provided through Salesforce. So I'm just going to show that as an example. So with Andy, who was volunteering and mentoring Lisa, with Andy, we have a volunteer community set up, and again, a community can be set up for partners or volunteers or even beneficiaries themselves. So going to the volunteer demo here. So here we're logging in and we're providing an online community, and this is a sample volunteer community. Now, I'm just going to click through to the main area, and Andy can see his support plans with Lisa here. He can log in and see his support plan with Lisa and her progress. Again, he might only be able to see certain fields that are relevant and not the confidential ones. And he can see the support hours that he's doing with Lisa, and he can log support. So he can create a new support record and do that virtually in here. And he can see the assessments, but he can't edit them or do anything. So these are independent assessments that Lisa's filling in about her aspirations and motivations and her distance travelled. So this provides a secure area. Now, some people prefer online community access for their stakeholders as opposed to online forms because it allows them to come in, edit information, see information, and also be able to participate in the Chatter-like forums that we talked about. So this is a volunteer community that you can see here with different groups. So it's volunteers that can chat to each other. And this type of functionality can also be used for peer-to-peer groups, so peer-to-peer support groups. It can also be used for learning communities and also private groups. So if you've got a family you're supporting, you can create a secure area for a member of staff to correspond. So it provides one step further than an online form, because an online form is simply a place that they fill in and the data gets populated. They can't then access that information and edit it. With an online community license, they can come in and edit it and interact with it and interact with staff members. So it provides much more of a secure space. The other areas we've got on here is mobile, and indeed with the CRM you can integrate text messaging. So text messaging can be sent, so it might be text reminders about meetings, it might be a text survey that you're sending out, and you can have a two-way text integration with a CRM. You can send text out and they respond. That response can come back into your CRM. So there's various tools that interact with the CRM and allow that to happen. You can also have web chat, and I think web chat is increasing attention now because it's about providing information, advice and guidance to people who visit your website. So you might have been on a website where a window pops up and somebody says, hey, can I help you? Can you find what you're looking for? Can I answer your questions? And that is really powerful in being immediately responsive. People aren't going to waste time looking for something that they might not find. You can immediately help orientate them to support they need. And that might be in a support role or indeed in a sales role. But with certain tools, you can integrate that with your CRM. So if somebody says, I'm interested, they normally have to enter their name and their email information, and that can automatically then create a CRM record, like a contact record within your CRM. So you can track who you had interactions with, you can log it as a case within your CRM. So again, all of that data is integrated within it. And similarly with social media, if you're having interactions with people via social media, you want to track who you're following, and all of that sort of information about, well, what was the tweet about? Is it something we need to log in our CRM? Again, you can integrate social media activity within your CRM. Your CRM should be the holding house of all interaction. Things shouldn't be sat in different places. All of your email information, data, interaction with clients, whether it's via community, offline forms, mobile, social media, all should be contained within one place. It becomes your sort of hothouse of information. Now, obviously, moving on, talking about data protection now. So if you're creating all of this data and containing it somewhere, then you need to make sure you consent with data protection requirements. So we had a great webinar earlier on in the year about data protection regulation that is coming up, and you'll be able to find that information on this URL here, so protecting your client data, which talks about the principles of data protection, and particularly sort of some of the areas that you need to think about in terms of fundraising and marketing moving forward. To focus, not to talk about data protection more broadly, but to sort of think about some of the things that you might need to do with your CRM and the tools you're using. I've put some 5 key points here. One is around creation of online forms. So if you're collecting stakeholder information, you need to ask relevant consent questions at various stages of their engagement with you. So you'll need to ask about their consent for interacting with you on engagement with the organisation, on leaving the organisation. So if they've completed their time with you as a beneficiary, how do you maintain relationship with them beyond that? And subsequent years going forward. So, you know, how do you engage with them? How do you communicate with them? So you can use online forms to collect that information, to send an email out to them at various stages to say, hey, you know, we know you no longer are engaged with us directly, but do you still want to be kept informed? Do you still want to be on a newsletter about this type of information? Please tick your preferences below, and they can then sort of consent or not, as the case may be, to how you then sort of store your data and communicate with them long term. What is useful in this case is also history tracking. So within your CRM and on the contact record, if consent fields are changed, i.e. they've changed their preferences over time, this is retained as a record. So you can retain what was changed and on what date it changed automatically. So that information can all be set up and tracked properly in your CRM. You can collect relevant information about your contacts and also sort them effectively using a CRM. So you can say, actually, we're going to send an email out to volunteers. We want to pull only active volunteers out of our database and ensure we are only marketing or emailing them directly who have consented because they're an active volunteer and have consented to receiving communication. So a CRM allows you to collect all that data and sort it properly. You can integrate various different e-marketing tools with the CRM. So what that means is that you've got a whole list of contacts, and an email marketing tool allows you to have really good analytics about your email marketing. So if you use a tool like MailChimp, for example, you can see who's clicked on what link, what they opened, and it sort of starts to analyze behavior with, you know, your newsletters or with your emails. So you can see who are really responsive recipients and who aren't, and look, you know, to increase engagement levels. And you can see, as I say, who clicked on what. If you integrate that with a CRM, you can pull that data back into your database. So you can see who opened what emails and how they're interacting with you. And so you don't get separate data silos in your e-marketing tool and your CRM, what you've got is one picture built up within your CRM about what is happening in your e-marketing tool. And that's quite powerful because it means that things are coordinated properly and you're not getting two different databases basically happening within those areas. The final point is about introduction of automated actions, and that's about making sure that, you know, if you automatically expire contacts from a mailing list, that can happen. And a CRM like Salesforce, you can automate these things to happen so it doesn't become a manual task. So your policy might be that as soon as somebody's finished on a program, you might tick a box automatically to say they no longer need to receive mailings about this program because they're no longer on it. And so rather that being subject to poor, it's down to somebody's job, because there can be manual errors that it doesn't get ticked and then somebody's receiving emails they shouldn't be, you can automate it. So if, with Lisa, as the example I showed, if the end date of her program was completed, it might automatically then take her off any respective mailing lists. And so you can automate things to make sure that there isn't manual errors there, that actually your engagement and communication with them is managed properly. So these are some of the ways that you can use the CRM to help you manage data protection, and indeed that article will give you further insight into it. The final section is around financial performance. So there are some key things here that you need to think about. With a charity and organisation, you want to be able to monitor return on investment with a CRM. So that might be about, well, how successful are we with our marketing and sales channels? Are they actually bringing us in what we expect in terms of donations or sales? How reliable is the pipeline? What is the pipeline? What stage are people at? What is the probability and ranking and forecasting around that sales pipeline? What are the main sources of income, and how do we know they are, reliable and sustainable in the future? What is the expenditure breakdown? Where are we spending money, and is it relative to what we're investing? So some of that we've looked at in terms of costs and values already. And what is the price point per beneficiary? So that is really around that value, where I said, what is the cost of engaging with somebody? And how do we benchmark against competitors? Because maybe the cost of your work of getting somebody into employment, for example, might be priced at £5,000, but maybe a competitor can get somebody into employment for £3,000. So it's about looking at how your cost benefit is, how you align with your competitors. So putting this in context, again, Lloyd's UK Digital Index have some useful stats here around how digital mature charities are 28% more likely to report an increase in funding than those that aren't. 47% of charities saying they've increased donations as a result of being digital. And charities are really now getting on board with it. So the number of charities accepting online donations has more than doubled since 2015. And there's been a marked improvement with the proportion of charities. So we're really seeing a change and the benefits. So how do we get you moving online, and what does that mean? So I've identified some key areas here for income and marketing, and things that I think you should think about in terms of what a CRM can offer for your organisation. Online and text payment integration. Now, a lot of our clients have signed up with things like Virgin Money and Giving, and they are online payment portals, absolutely. But what is happening is that the data and information is being kept on their servers. They're being kept on these third-party payment servers, and then they have to be integrated. Ideally, we then get involved in bringing that data over into the CRM, which, depending on the value of it, can either be an automated integration, or it can be a case of download of Excel and import of Excel of data, which isn't the ideal. So some of our clients have moved over to online payment tools. So I've got a summary of some of them here, which those that integrate with Salesforce. And I guess the benefit of a full solution, if you were looking at a really good solution, is that you have a ability for somebody to take an online payment, your website take the online payment, the information is completed, and that data automatically goes into your client relationship management system. So within your client relationship management system, you've collected the contact information automatically, you've collected the organisation information if relevant, and you've also collected what they've paid for and what each of the transactions are. So it might be around membership, it might be about a donation, a recurring donation, but all of that data is contained. And so again, you've got a 360-degree view. So with Salesforce, you can combine payment gateways and merchants such as IETS, which is a non-profit specialist tool, Payonomy, PayPal, Chargent and WorldPay, Go Cardless, Aspirato, Inform Assembly and Zapier all enable an end-to-end payment solution that basically gets payment from a website straight into your CRM system, so you're tracking everything. And again, you can do it for e-carts and that sort of thing. And Salesforce has just bought a e-cart solution, an e-commerce solution that can be basically managed from within Salesforce. So all of that sort of information is there. So that's what you want from an end-to-end journey. In terms of other features, so I'll jump into Salesforce again in a moment, but basically within Salesforce you can manage all of your income pipeline, so you can log any sort of type of income that's coming, and you can use forecasting tools to assess what is happening. So I'll jump back in now to show you an example of this. And I'll just go to our sales app. So these are different apps I'm jumping to in our system. So opportunities, I mean, Salesforce is built around sales management. It is really sort of built to help sort of manage income. So opportunities is a standard object in Salesforce. And within here, you can track different opportunity types. So if I click new, it's going to ask me, this is how we've set up our demo org, to either create a record which is to do with sales, donations, grants or membership, for example. And depending on which record type I choose, it will come up with different fields of information that it will ask me. So I'm going to click on this membership record. And here I can put the amount, the revenue, the probability, which you can manually edit, and this probability is used within a forecasting tool, which the forecasting tool allows you to basically calculate amount of money versus probability and the month in which it will come in to see how successful you are. You can track lead source, so what particularly source this came from, and also marketing campaigns. So clients use the campaigns feature, which is this tab here, to track and analyze all marketing efforts. And so we'll go and have a look at campaigns in a moment. And so you've got a campaign here, conference, the NCVO conference, for example, and this showed that we actually sold membership to this football charity due to our attendance at the NCVO conference. Now if I go and click on this campaign, what it's doing is showing me the campaign, and it's showing me that we had 13 leads generated from the campaign, which is in here, then contacts and opportunities. So far we've had £10,500 generated from attending this conference. You can put a budget in here, so the budget from attending the conference was £1,000, the actual cost was £1,500, the expected revenue was £5,000, and the total that we've got so far is £500, but these opportunities are still in the pipeline. So it allows you to do campaign management, so you can track return on investment for marketing and sales activities. And again, this has been something that a charity commission has been really hot on. There was articles earlier in the year about marketing efforts and about whether charities are spending their marketing budget effectively, and whether they are getting the return on investment in terms of fundraising and donations. So I'm just going to jump to our income dashboard. Now, something to mention here, we're looking at the normal Salesforce instance, of which you can customize out. There is also a non-profit success pack, which is really built out for donation management. So if you do a lot of personal donation management, then the non-profit success pack is something that you can integrate into your instance to really help manage donations by households and by individuals. Here I've got an example Salesforce income dashboard that I've set up, which shows me the sales pipeline, amount secured against our annual target, source of income, income based on marketing campaigns, types of income, so amount of income we generated through grants, sales and other, opportunities by stage. So again, these are just example graphs, but what I'm trying to illustrate is you can set up graphs, charts, tables to show you the KPIs that you really want to keep an eye on real time. So that's really the summary of today. So we've done well in terms of time. I seem to get it just bang on. If you want further support, what we're running is CRM planning workshops, and really the success of a CRM is really about internal planning, and there's 3 key areas we look at here, which is around business analysts thinking about what you need to track KPI wise, what activities you want within the CRM, and have somebody managing that internally. It's also about change management, and it's about understanding what the technology does. So sorry, this price is wrong here. It's £200 plus VAT to attend our CRM planning workshop. If you are looking for consultancy support, we're happy to offer a free 1-hour consultation to speak to anybody individually about what their needs might be. If you have a specification, then obviously we can work through that with you and talk about how Salesforce can meet those needs, but hopefully it's given you a pretty good overview around some of the things that can do for you today, and then we can provide quotes to do consultancy support for you. And we also have a small charities program which offers 6 days of free support on a 12-day package, because we are supporting trainee mums to become Salesforce administrators who want flexible career roles. So they're starting with us next week, and we're looking for projects to work on over the next few months for them to get their hands dirty. So any support, then let me know. I will send these slides out and also send a copy of the video round, and hopefully that's been valuable. If there's any questions now, then please do post them, and I'll try and ask them in the next sort of 3 minutes or so. Otherwise, you can certainly email me afterwards. Okay, thanks very much for listening. Okay, so somebody's asked about costs for Salesforce. So it depends on what kind of supporters they are. I think it's Caroline. So Salesforce offer 10 free user licenses to non-profits, and then additional licenses. If we're looking at communities, if you were to have, say, 2,000 logins per month of people, so that's not unique users, but by logins, you're talking about just about £2,500 a year plus VAT for use of a community. Depending on the quantity, it gets cheaper as you scale up relatively. In terms of additional users, so if you've got other staff and colleagues, then normally other staff and partners that might need to access the system can be anything from £60 per user per year plus VAT, depending on the level of access they need to have to the system. The maximum price is about £300 plus VAT, and again, it is on a case-by-case basis. We tend to sort of, design a system in a way that is accessible for the people that need to access it, which is why some people choose online communities versus online forms. If you don't need them to interact with the system and you just want them to use online forms, then that's a cheaper way of enabling people to give you data into your system. Great. Well, thanks very much for joining once again. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and please do contact me if you've got any questions following the session. Many thanks. Bye bye, everybody. Have a great day.